for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about Dungeons of Hinterberg. Nothing at all? Not even a little bit?
You have to say your part. Did you
hear what I said?
I did, but you didn't say I'm Frankie, so I can't speak yet.
I expected you to be like, no, it's not.
I was waiting for my turn, Frankie. We have a process.
Anyway, this is a podcast about how Dungeons of Hinterberg won't let me kiss my wife. I'm Frankie.
And I'm at A.K.A. Stormageddon. Who's your wife?
Jay. Jay is my wife, and I love her, and I would do anything for her. And the fact that I cannot kiss my wife is a crime. Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Will it not let you because you didn't do the right thing you needed to do?
No, there's just no romance in it.
Oh. I thought there was. I had been told there was.
No, there's no romance. It's very good about friendship. It's very wholesome and pure, and you make friends with so many people, and I value that. But also, Jay is my wife, and I would like to kiss her. Got it.
Noted.
So
you should just write an email to the devs of Dungeons of Hinterberg.
I will.
That the title just says "Let me kiss my wife," and then the body has a picture of Jay,
yes.
And that's it. You don't even explain it.
If Matt's Patreon hits, give me a number.
We don't do it by number of dollars, number of patrons. Yeah. So let's see, 20.
If Matt's Patreon hits 20 subscribers, I will email the developers of Dungeons of Hinterberg and say, let me kiss my wife, exactly as Matt has described.
Specifically paid subscribers. We already have well over 20 non-paid
20 paid subscribers, and I will do this. Anyway, This podcast is not actually about Dungeons of Hinterberg, though sometimes I wish it was. It is about true crime.
It is. And before we get into our summary, there have been some Veilguard updates since we last recorded. We've of course talked about the release date of Halloween. So we are, as of recording, a little over a month and 3 weeks away from the game, which is very exciting. They've decided to release a audio podcast about all of the companions. As of when we're recording, the one about Harding just released. It's called Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance. I have not had an opportunity to start listening yet, and I may just wait till they're all out so I can binge them at once.
What's the name of it again? Not the episode,
Vows
the
and
show itself.
Vows and Vengeance. No. That's the name of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, so it's...
Not the episode. Yeah, it's a narrative weekly narrative podcast called Vows and Vengeance.
Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were saying that the episode about Harding was called... Okay, no. I understand now. So it's called Dragon Age, Vows and Vengeance. The first episode is called Once a Thief.
Yes.
And the second episode is called The Cult of the Doom Blade.
Yes.
I am downloading the episodes because I go on a plane soon, and I will need stuff to listen to.
So far, I believe they've covered Nadia and Harding, and they will continue to. I think the scope of the podcast, if I recall correctly, is to show how this group came together to team up with Rook after things start to go south with Solus.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. It's a unique way to give more background on these characters. Dragon Age, of course, has done comics and movies and other things. So creating an audio podcast is not far afield from the kind of thing they would do. There's also been more information revealed about the leveling up system, more combat videos showing different classes. They're really starting to ramp up the releases in lead up to the game itself, which is very exciting as we continue to get more background on everything. So that's been really fun to see. Also, as of when we're recording, there was a preview event held at BioWare Studio. More will be out about that later this month, but I've seen photos of folks going to get hands-on with the game, which is exciting since I know several BioWare snobs, let's put it, who got hands-on with it, and I'm curious to hear their thoughts.
It's okay. You can say Ken.
Well, look, I've gotten Ken to admit recently that he is a fan first and a hater second, so which I think we can all say unequivocally is true, that as much as we want to be mad at BioWare for the mistakes made along the way recently, we also really want a good game and are excited for Dragon Age. So so there's tons of stuff. I recommend going to the Dragon Age Twitter because they've had a lot of posts about kind of chronologically about all the stuff coming. That's how I've been tracking a lot of it. But we will continue to update you here as well. There are tons of really great places to find and keep up with Dragon Age news. We will try and keep you updated as well if we are your one and only source. But also, if we are your one and only source, you're going to probably be about 2 weeks behind on all the news until the game comes out.
Yeah,
so,
we're not a news podcast. Like, we're the people you come to when you're like, okay, I've heard the news already. I want to know what you think about it.
Yeah, and so I think probably what will happen before the end of the year for sure is we'll find time to talk about this podcast. Frankie and I will both listen to it, and as well as we're going to have some kind of roundtable discussion about the game itself, but more on that as we get closer to release and have actually played the game. But we do intend to give you some information on the Veilguard, fuck this name, on the Veilguard as we get closer to release and after.
I had a stupid idea.
Oh.
What if we do a supplemental Reignite podcast where we talk about each episode of Vows and Vengeance?
Ugh. That's so much more work.
I know. That's why I said it was a stupid idea.
Yeah, probably not going to happen, but we'll see.
But wouldn't it be funny, though?
It would be funny to do a podcast about a video game.
A podcast about a video game.
But yes, and just to make it clear, we are not going to cover the Veilguard until we get to it chronologically, but I don't think we will let the year end without having some kind of discussion on it, especially since, as far as I know, D4 is still considered Dragon Age Day. So maybe look to around that time for more information on that, if not sooner. Okay, shall we get into our summary?
Inky, would you like to read the summary? He said I can do it.
Okay, that's good.
There are many people for us to speak to while we wander around Hightown, one of which is a magistrate who has a mission for us. He has heard that we are able to get things done on the sly. Inky didn't like that.
No.
Okay, buddy. He's heard that we can get things done on the sly and wants us to battle our way through ancient ruins to collect an escaped convict and bring him back for justice. Not on my keyboard, my love. The ancient ruins are filled with beasts that normal guards are not equipped to handle. But who cares if we throw our lives away, right? Once we arrive at the ruins, we learn that there is more to this convict than we were initially told. Because of course there is. This convict has a history of abducting and murdering elven children, and nothing has been done about it. An elf whose daughter was most recently abducted and presumed dead requests that we put the murderer down instead of bringing him back alive, as we were ordered.
Yeah, this is one of the... So this is the kind of mission in a game like this where you could either think it's great because it gives you choices and it seems dynamic, or you can think is awful because it feels like you're forced to make choices that you're really not given the background or time to make an educated decision about.
Yeah, I didn't love what my options were, but I did my best based on the world that we currently live in.
Yeah, this mission feels a lot based on shock value and like choices for the sake of choices.
I don't know. I think before we get into our discussion, we have to give you guys a content warning, because as part of this mission, we are going to have to talk about violence against women, violence against children. We don't really have an idea of how old the quote children are. When we meet Leah, she seems like she's a young adult.
No.
Like, there is one child design, and they just copy paste that one child.
Correct.
So it's very possible that Leo's maybe 13. We have no way of knowing.
No.
Based on our conversation with her, she could be young. We don't know. So content warning, discussion about violence towards women, discussion about violence towards children, mental health in the justice system. What else are we going to be covering?
I feel like sexual violence is implied. We don't know for sure,
Yeah.
but it was in this mission. So that too.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything. So if any of that is a trigger for you, please listen cautiously, or if you can't listen, we love you and we respect you, and we will see you next episode.
Yep.
All right. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So we approach a magistrate and are given a mission to bring a criminal to justice. You have an opportunity to be very snarky here when he mentions that he's heard you have talents.
Yeah, he says get things done on the sly, which is why I included it in the summary, because I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, you must be referring to my ability to juggle rats. And he's like, maybe I was misinformed. I was told you had actual useful talents. And then goes on to...
I didn't get that dialogue option!
Yeah, it was great. And then,
My
then he just
response was... that's a fancy way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, he mentions at some point you having certain skills, and that's when I said that response.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, I guess I was led to believe incorrectly. I thought you had useful skills," and then goes into his pitch for the mission anyway. So it's like it just feels incongruous a little bit. It was very weird. It might be a male hawk only.
It could be
option.
a male hawk only
I don't
option.
know.
That seems unfair because a female hawk can also juggle, probably.
Probably.
Except unless it's actually me, because I can't juggle. My spouse was supposed to teach me.
I also cannot juggle, so it's not actually me. But
so when I come home, we're both going to bully my spouse into teaching us how to juggle, right?
I'm good, thanks. I've tried. Not for me. You have fun.
For the bit, if Matt reaches 40 subscribers.
Okay, come on. Enough.
All right. So Magistrate Vinard tells us that there is this escaped convict who has run into these ancient ruins knowing that there are terrible beasts in there, and they've already cut through an entire platoon of soldiers, and they don't want to send any more. So, like, nobody cares about you, right? You can go.
Yeah, this is one of those occasions where it's not about how skilled we are, it's how expendable we are.
Yeah. And one of the things he says is like, and then I'll owe you, which, you know, can be very beneficial for Elden refugee, don't you think? And I'm just like, all right, calm down.
Yeah.
And he tells us that the reason he wants this convict back is because he believes in justice. And very specifically, he tells us he wants this guy brought in alive.
Yes.
Because you can say, like, I mean, just let the creatures kill him. Who cares?
Yeah.
But we don't find out what his crime is or anything. Like, it's just
we know nothing. And you can ask, and he says his crime isn't important. I just need you to bring him to me.
Like, here's your bounty. Go do it. Which I feel is really irresponsible. Like, knowing what we know why he didn't tell us. But if you don't know, if not from a meta perspective, it's really irresponsible for you to just be like, yeah, go get this guy. Because he could be a shoplifter. He could be a mass murderer.
He could be a demon in disguise. We don't know.
Like, we literally, he could be a mage. Like, you have to give us some information.
Well, apparently he doesn't.
So, anyway, when we do get to the ruins, we meet this group of guards who are like, oh, great, you're the reinforcements. Go get them. Have fun, champ.
Yeah, and before we can go in, we are stopped by an elf who is quite irate and is yelling at the guards, us, pretty much anyone who will listen.
I mean, understandably, because we find out that this convict we're after is actually a serial killer. He has a history of abducting and murdering elven children.
Yep.
And including his own daughter.
Yes.
So even though this elven man whose name is Elrin, which is not fun to be like this elven man Elrin. He's a merchant. He has a significant amount of money. Like, clearly he's not a noble because he's a city elf, and we all know that basically they're third-class citizens and they're unimportant in the grand scheme of Kirkwall to the people in charge. Not to us, because we care very deeply about the plight of the city elf. Elrin says that for all of that, nobody gives a shit because we're elves.
Yeah.
And, we know that's true. We've seen what the alienage is like.
Yep. And he pleads with us to agree to go in and kill this man.
Mm-hmm. What was your reaction?
I was like, well, what did he do? And like, can you tell me more? And he gives you more information, talks about his daughter who was abducted, how he's been doing this for a very long time, and all they do is keep locking him up and he keeps getting out again. And that he's never going to stop. It's just been the same pattern over and over again.
Well, what did you react with? Like, did you say justice must prevail, or? I
mean, it wasn't that strong of a response, but I agreed. I was like, if all of that is true, I will confront this man and I will stop him from continuing to do this.
Okay, so you said that you would tear his throat out yourself.
Did I? Was that the response? I guess it was. Yes.
Because there's either like, look, I don't know what I'm going to do, or I have to bring him in alive, or fuck that, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
Those are your options.
I think I basically said that because after hearing the laundry list of things that have been happening and for how long it's been happening over and over again, I agreed to kill him. Yeah.
Yeah. I said that I would help him. And the guards are like, meh, 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 if you do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Going against direct orders, yeah.
I'm just like, do I look like a person who cares about orders? Do I?
Also, since we haven't said yet, who did you bring with you on this mission?
Anders, Bethany, and Varric.
Because I forgot to change my party, I brought Fenris, Isabella, and Meryl again.
Okay. See, I tried not to be meta about it because I know that Fenris feels a type of way.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. I just forgot to go to a party changing thing, and I was like, oh, I'll roll with this crew again.
Yeah. I chose Bethany because I've been playing it as like, we're close. Like, we're close as siblings. And I love Anders. And I love Varric. So, like, those are my boys. Those are my rotten soldiers. They're my sweet cheeses.
Yes. And as for me, like, the reason I have Isabella with me right now is because otherwise I'd always take Varric, which is fine. But I don't think I have established a connection that well to any particular character yet. Like, in-game.
Yeah.
Outside of the game, I, of course, have favorites. Yeah. So that's why I brought this group. And again, on a meta level, I just didn't think about changing my party. So once you're in the mission, you're in the mission. Because
usually the way I play is Fenris, Anders, Varric. Those are my boys. End of story. I take them everywhere. Right. But I know that Fenris feels a certain kind of way. So that is interesting narratively to bring him. But I tried not to play into that. And just be like, Isabella and I are close. Anyway, so we head into the ancient ruins. Again, nothing interesting in terms of fighting. Spiders, skeletons, raiders, that's kind of it.
Yep. I hope you like this ruin layout because it's going to be something you see a lot of later in the game.
I know. I was going around and I was like, am I insane? I could have sworn there was a specific thing here, but it's not this level. They just reused this goddamn map.
Yeah, I believe this is the Deep Roads. I believe when we go into the Deep Roads, this is exactly what it looks like.
No, the Deep Roads looks different.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, I think we just have another mission in these ruins.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember there being a golem that you can approach and buy things from.
Okay. It might be that like the early part of the Deep Roads looks like this and then it changes, or vice versa. Who knows? Anyway.
I don't know. I think we just come back here. I have played this game many, many times. The Deep Roads leaves a strong impression. You know what? There is a section of the Deep Roads that does look similar to this.
Okay.
But not exactly this.
I mean, part of it is the asset reuse. No matter where we go, things are reused, and so
it's not the same map, but it
like
is the same like walls and floor.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the map itself.
Oh well,
We
yes, those
revisit
get
this same
reused also.
map.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's just speed ahead to we do discover that Leah is alive. Leah has not been killed.
Yes, and we encounter her as we are navigating through these ruins. She's sitting there. She seems to have escaped the criminal, and so we stop to talk to her, and we find out that apparently the criminal had a moment of lucidity and let her go and isn't a bad person, according to Leah. Leah had talked to him and apparently explains that he's being controlled, but in a moment of clarity let her go.
I have really mixed feelings about this.
She essentially begs us to not kill him, but also like when we ask if she's okay and what he's done, like there's a pause, the kind of pause like he did things I don't know how to talk about this kind of thing, and then does talk about like how he hit her and things like that. And yeah, it's an uncomfortable conversation, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about it either.
Yeah. When we first encounter her, she tells us that Kelder threatened her family if she didn't go with him, which is how he got her in the first place. It is unclear how old Leah is just from this conversation. There may be like a Wikipedia somewhere that says how old she is. I'll look it up later. That's for my own benefit. But again, let's assume that she is under 16, just for the sake of argument. Let's assume that she's under 16. I kind of see her as 13. And she explains that he hit her and degraded her, but then he pushed her away and started crying. And she says that he didn't mean to hurt me. And that just harkens back to domestic violence for me. Yeah. Like, it hurt me emotionally to hear her say that.
Yeah.
And, as someone who was a victim of violence from a trusted person, it's just really difficult because I have actually said the words, he didn't mean to hurt me. And, it's difficult. It's really hard. And she talks about how he couldn't stop himself. And it just feels like she's been brainwashed more than her seeing, like, the good in him.
Yeah, I mean, I've had enough conversations with people who have been in those situations who have used that language to recognize that she feels bad because there was this moment of clarity, whether authentic or not, and it shows her inexperience, which shows her youth, and her willingness to still trust, which also often I think comes more with youth. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. We are more eager to see the good in people, which is not a thing that adults can't have, but like it is more common in young people and children to be more trusting when you are younger.
And I also think that young girls are more likely to believe when someone tells them that they love them.
Yeah.
Like I think all children are willing to believe that, but I think that this is a weapon that older men use against young girls very often when taking advantage of them. And I don't know. I just, I have feelings.
Yeah.
I have feelings I can't fully articulate.
And so in this moment in the game, she asks you to not kill him, and you can give your response of whether you will or won't. And I, of course, said that this doesn't really change anything. I have to do what I have to do. Which she doesn't react poorly to necessarily. She just is not. And then you can tell her to run outside, leave the dungeon. Your father's waiting outside.
One thing that I did make sure to say is when she said, like, he didn't mean to do it. It wasn't his fault. The demons were telling him to do it. My response was like, I don't give a shit if the maker told him to do it. He's still responsible for his own actions.
You're right. He still did it. He's still the one who did it.
Yeah. So I inevitably said, I will do my best to show mercy.
Yeah.
Like, I promise nothing.
Right.
So that was that conversation. We proceed and we find Kelder sitting alone, looking pathetic.
Yeah, we confront him, and this is when he drops the bombshell that he is actually the son of the magistrate. He's not just a random criminal.
Yeah. So now everything clicks into place. Of course, the magistrate wants to send someone to bring this guy in alive. It's his son. And he says that his father tried to help him. I would like to know what his father has tried. We don't get that information. It's just something that I would personally like to know. Like, is his father's idea of helping locking him in his room? Or is it, like, get therapy?
Well, it's hinted at that he did talk to the mages. Kelder did talk to the mages as well.
He does say that.
And so I'm guessing that's part of the help. And he said the mages couldn't even help him. And that's when my character had the most harsh reaction. Like, Kelder says that the mages tried to help, but they said there's no demons, that it's all in my head. And, like...
And he accuses them of lying.
Right. And if anyone knows about demons and mages gone bad and issues with magic, it's the mages. And being a mage, I took that as, oh, so you're lying, and the mages knew you were lying, and now you're claiming they're lying because they didn't find anything magically wrong with you.
Yeah. I had a harsh reaction as well. My reaction was like, the mages wouldn't risk a demon on the streets. Like,
correct. They wouldn't just let you go if they thought you had a demon in your head.
Yeah. And that's when it becomes so much more clear that he's mentally ill.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of what he's exhibiting lines up with what we see in media as represented as schizophrenia.
Yes, hearing voices, doing what the voices tell him to do.
And I don't want this to be a conversation about how people with schizophrenia are prone to violent acts, because that's not true.
Of course not. No.
But I do think that is the implication that we are being given from this conversation with Kelder.
Well, yeah, it's a shortcut that media has used for years of, like, the insane are criminals, right? Like, if you are insane, you will commit crime, or vice versa, I guess. And that's not, correlation is not causation. It's not, one does not automatically include the other, but that is the case here, that he is someone who's completely mentally unstable, hearing voices and doing what the voices are telling him to do, and we were sent to deal with it without that information, which is, I think, quite vital to making choices in this moment, and would have informed our choices had we had that information.
I completely agree. A couple of things that Kelder says that reinforces that this is not demonic possession and it is all in his head is, she had no right to be so beautiful, so perfect. The demons made me do it. They force me. They don't like it when they cry.
Yeah. It's awful language, and the kind of language that, because I've never met a criminal in person per se, like that a lot of TV shows use, like the kind of talking that someone makes them do it, this kind of distant discussion of how beautiful young women are.
This is a trope that has been used in media,
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me sad for Kelder in a way, because he knows logically, like, logic brain says, this is wrong and I should not be doing this.
Right.
But logic brain is not in control.
No.
And it makes it really hard for me to decide to kill him outright, because he's mentally ill. He needs help. He needs, like, real, actual help.
Right. But there's no way to guarantee he will get real actual help. And I think also a big thing here is that Elrin mentions that this has been going on for years.
Yeah.
Like, he just gets out, they just lock him up and he gets out again. And so making decisions in a functional government that is not actually functional and that isn't working is different from making decisions in a government that you believe will actually make improvements and help. And that's what this kind of comes down to.
Yeah. And essentially our decision is, do we kill this man who is clearly ill and needs therapy and needs actual help, or do we take him in alive as we were ordered and risk that our request for this man to get help is ignored and he'll just do it again and again?
And just keep killing over and over again.
And we are just a guy.
Yeah, and we're not equipped. Like this is very much a BioWare thing of giving you a decision to make that you are ill-equipped to make. Right? It's
Yeah.
decisions Shepard often had to make. Even
The warden.
the warden. Thank you. I couldn't find the word. The decisions the warden had to make, and we've made these kinds of decisions already multiple times as Hawk, just kind of being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the right time, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of binary options in BioWare games. Something that I'm curious about the Veilguard, as it will be the newest BioWare game to date. Will there be less binary choices? Will it still be yes or no choices? Which, I will admit that the game doesn't always give those kinds of choices. This game and others do have a variety, but they do lean heavy on kill or not kill kind of choices.
Yeah.
And I am just curious to see how a new game handles that. But in this game, it is very much we either kill him or we bring him in. There are no other options or influences that we can make, it would seem.
Also, I feel like that's kind of like the running theme with Dragon Age overall, is that no matter what, it is not a cut and dry choice. Like, it's never going to be a clear choice.
Right.
Like, if you are playing a person who always wants to do the right thing, there is no clear right thing in this conversation that we're having.
Right. Not every choice can be to stab Kai Lang in the chest.
Right. Unlike in Mass Effect, where even if you take a renegade action, sometimes that is the right choice. Like,
right.
Everything will work out okay.
Yeah. In Dragon Age also, as we've said since we started Origins, is a much darker story, timeline, world. Though, I mean, the Mass Effect world gets pretty dark too, but like there's more hope and optimism, I think, in Mass Effect than there is in Dragon Age, especially in this game.
Yeah, like everything is just going to hell all the time.
Yeah. And if the previews of Veilguard's story are any indication, that continues to be the case.
Yeah.
So here we are left to make this binary choice. But for me, the choice is made a little easier. So towards the end of this conversation, Fenris steps forward and says, I'll kill him. He needs to die. And I was leaning towards that choice anyway. And so, like with
Aveline.
Aveline, thank you. I'm bad with names today. Like with Aveline killing her partner, so I didn't have to. This feels like an easier choice. And so I allow Fenris to do it, and he does his ghost fist thing and kills him. I don't feel good about this choice, but I also don't feel like I had a different choice either, which is by design of the game for sure.
Well, for once we made opposite choices. I say that he's coming with me, and he runs away. When he runs, he encounters more creatures in the ruins. So I have to kill all of those in order to protect him. And after I do that, he says, all right, I'm not going to run again. So you bring him out, and a guard punches him in the stomach, which I feel like maybe they didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
Like, did you not get the memo that this guy is the magistrate's son? Maybe don't punch him in the stomach.
Yeah, might be bad for you.
Elrin is disappointed, which, fair. And he says that he's going to get his family out of the city, which, you know what? I respect that, dude. You were not standing there. Also, it wasn't my kid that was abducted.
Yeah.
We have very different perspectives. If he was, like, malicious, then maybe this would have been entirely different.
Right.
Like, if he came at me with a knife, if he attempted suicide by adventurer.
Yeah. I mean, we should say, because you didn't mention earlier, he does want to die. Kelder goes into those ruins hoping the creatures will kill. Right. Exactly. Like, this is not a like you have to chase him down to kill him either.
Yeah.
It's he wants to die. He knows what he's doing is wrong and knows that his father won't do anything about it either.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's hard and sad, and Dragon Age, please stop. Just
and
please
when
stop.
When I come out, I tell Elrin that he's dead. He thanks me. He's very grateful. And then what's interesting here is when we go back to the magistrate, you'll probably have more. For me, when I go back to him, he just goes, never show your face around here again, and walks away. Like, I don't even get anything after that. I don't have a conversation. I literally click on him to turn in the mission, and he turns around and walks away and says, never show your face around here again.
Yeah. I have a bit of a conversation with him. I do tell him, like, bro, this kid needs help. And the magistrate is like, I'm not going to give in to the stories that elves make up. And I'm like, I should stab you. You're the real monster, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
actually,
your son may do awful things, but he's sick. And you just refuse to accept that he's sick.
Yeah, this is a case of, mental health, struggling with mental health equals weakness, and I won't give in to that.
Yeah.
And it's garbage. Who
was the real monster all along?
Yeah. I mean, if the choice were to make choices for Kelder myself and get him help and kill the magistrate, I would have done that.
I would have done that too.
But the game doesn't allow that choice.
Like, fuck this
guy. Because that's the true right choice.
I wish that we could have then said, actually, you know what? I have a lot of contacts. I'm going to blow your shit up.
Yeah.
I wish I could have done that.
Yeah, but we're not like the person yet. We're not the champion of Kirkwall yet.
Because he does say, like, who's gonna know? And I'm like, buddy.
They're gonna know.
They're gonna know. Yeah. I didn't love it. Like, I understand that it is intentionally hard. Like, this isn't poor writing. This is good writing in terms of it achieves what it sets out to do.
I agree.
It just made me sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think we often pick on BioWare for making choices needlessly difficult or like making choices hard for the sake of hard choices. But the narratives so far here have been way more interesting and difficult for different reasons.
Yeah.
Definitely not an easy choice to make. We're definitely also putting more weight on it than some other game players might, which is the whole point of this podcast. That's because we are who we are. Yeah. We wouldn't have much of a podcast if we didn't do that. But I am curious, like, for everyone listening, how you made these choices. We always ask for feedback in the Discord or via email or in anywhere that you want to reach out. But for choices like this, especially if you've dealt with mental health or abuse and want to talk about that, you don't have to. Not required, especially since some of y'all might have jumped ship when we gave the content warning. But if you are comfortable, not necessarily with details, but just talking about how hard this kind of decision was based on previous experience and what choice you made, we would love to hear, because I'm curious. I don't think it's a clear, cut and dry, right or wrong answer.
Yeah. If there's a perspective that you feel that we just don't have, but you do, we would love to hear it.
Yes.
Okay. Did you take note of your money at the end?
I did. And by the end, I meant this morning before we recorded, because I saw it in the notes. I haven't gone up that much. I'm only at 36 gold, 45 silver, and 67 copper. You're
still beating me. I'm at 34, 51, 25.
And I didn't even sell my junk from this mission. So
I did.
I'll probably still stay ahead of you.
God damn it.
It's because I'm not buying potions. I never get hit by anything.
I always buy potions because I'm paranoid.
Well, and you're in the fray.
I am. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. The fray started playing in my head.
Oh my God. How to Save a Life?
Yes.
Of course.
I am in the fray, trying to save lives.
For those who aren't aware, the fray is a band. Anyway.
If you listen to this podcast and you don't know that.
I know, right? Shout out to Alex Van Aken, who sang the fray with me at karaoke on my birthday last year. Anyway.
I'm sorry I wasn't there.
Yeah, you were in another country. That's not on me.
I'm always in another country.
It's true. Actually, that's not true.
Well,
soon
I won't be in another country. I will be in the same country as
you. Technically, you'll be in another country from where you are now, but the same country as me.
All right, semantics. I'm your biggest fan. I'll buy your merch until I'm broke, babe. Fandom Corner. Welcome to Fandom Corner, my favorite segment and the thing Matt hates most in the world.
I don't hate the segment. I don't even hate the singing. I'm annoyed by you.
That sounds fair. That's factual. And you know what? You're not the only one. Anyway, for today's Fandom Corner, I am bringing you Connor Carroll Art. They are an artist and writer based in Dublin. They are the creator of The Geek Brigade, a monthly zine that features a map, NPC, monster, weapon, magic item, spell-related art, and short story. So if you are a TTRPG fan, if you love Dungeons & Dragons, if you're looking for more homebrew shenanigans, you should definitely check out The Geek Brigade. You can head to their website at connorcarrollart.wordpress.com. Please check the show notes for the exact spelling. 2 R's, 2 L's. In Carol, not in Connor.
And actually, you won't have to check the show notes for the spelling because I will just link to the website itself.
See, Matt's got it.
I do.
Well, if you head over to their website, you can get a free issue of their zine. And if you like it, you can check out their Ko-fi to see what else they've published. You can find them at Connor Carroll Art on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well.
Awesome. Thank you for featuring that.
They've also published like a couple of just TTRPG homebrew collections. So there's like a weapon collection and a monster collection.
You're a monster collection.
That's true. That's actually very true. How did you know?
We can smell our own.
I was going
even through the internet.
I was going to say because of that one time.
That one time.
Also, I noticed that you're wearing your Kingdom Hearts Nobody shirt, and I was just thinking back to my 21st birthday where I wore that shirt when we went to sing karaoke.
I hate to break your heart.
Is it not that shirt? Oh my god! No, I thought it was that shirt.
I don't have that shirt anymore.
It looked exactly.
You saw,
like
yeah.
it.
It's for listeners. It's Reinhardt's helmet from Overwatch, but it is from this angle a similar shirt. No, I outgrew that shirt ages ago.
Sad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what a happy memory.
Yeah, and I just had to piss all over it.
Just like my dreams.
Yes. Anyway, thank you for shouting out Connor Carroll Art. Everyone go check that out. It will be in the show notes down below. And that's it for this episode. Next time, before we wrap up completely, next time we are going to do the mission, The First Sacrifice, continuing our true crime theme as we continue to save up more money so we can fund an expedition we aren't even actually on yet.
More murder.
Yeah, there's a lot of murder in this town.
Yeah, well, Gee, I wonder why.
Gee, I wonder why. So we will be doing The First Sacrifice next. Do that mission if you would like to continue to play along.
And before we wrap up, I would love to share an email from one of our listening pals, Erin, who sent us an email. Frequent listener, first-time emailer. Hello, Frankie and Matt. I found the podcast late last year and immediately replayed through Mass Effect 1 and 2 and finally got the momentum to get through Andromeda, which I really loved and can't wait to get a copy of the book about the Quarian arc, thanks to Frankie's recommendation. Yes! Email us when you read it, because not enough people have read it, and I fucking love that book. It was so good and so gay. I have so many feelings about it. I started ME3 and had to stop before I started crying at every play session knowing what was coming. Oh, sweet bean. I follow along in the Discord, but it's a new and intimidating space for me, so I wanted to send an email to let you both know how much I appreciate the show and what you are doing. Dragon Age has been one of my favorite franchises since just before 2 was released. I had only really ever played World of Warcraft and old school games at the time, so DA became my base level of what an RPG was meant to be. The franchise has also helped me through so many years of mental health diagnoses and continues to provide that safe space as one of my special interests. I am so excited to be listening to the playthrough with the two of you, even if I get overly excited and finish the game before the pod. I'm going to skip around because there's a lot of detail that we read, which I love. There's a paragraph about the male Hawk and Anders versus female Hawk and Anders conversation, and also highlighting that he is basically a war criminal. You leave my war criminal alone, Aaron. I'm coming for you.
He has to pay for his crime.
He has to pay me with kisses.
Okay.
Anyway, I will cut this off before I keep gushing about other fave characters and just say that I am so excited to have Bowden and Sandal back with us soon. Thank you for all the work that goes into the show. It's been such a joy to play along with other fans, even if it is virtually. All Templars are bastards, Aaron.
Excellent. I hope everyone starts to sign off their emails with all Templars are bastards. Yes. Erin, thank you for that email. Also, deep apologies that your base level of what an RPG should be is the Dragon Age series, since it is a fucking mess of an RPG series. From combat to systems, it is inconsistent in literally every game. So if you like a variety of RPGs, then I guess that works out. But otherwise, I am so sorry.
I do want to highlight that Erin says thank you for all the work that goes into the show. That thank you is specifically for Matt. Matt does all the editing and all the scheduling. Matt is the only reason the show keeps going, because I am barely a person. Matt basically says, be online at this time. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. Whatever you say, boss.
I mean, that is true and not true, because I don't do any of the outline writing or the mapping for each season. In fact, for Mass Effect Andromeda, that season wouldn't have happened at all if it weren't for you, because you did all of the outlining and set up the system so people could bet on who I was going to romance.
Let me be nice.
I also disappointed so many people. But look, I can't resist Cora. Couldn't do it. Sorry. Anyway.
It's fine. She's fine. There's nothing wrong with her.
No. Cora, I mean, especially compared to other humans in the series, yeah. Cora is pretty average.
Cora's good. Yeah. She's sweet.
Yes, correct.
And Liam's a cop.
Liam is a cop, much to the dismay of our guest Sarah, who mostly agreed, but still loves him anyway, which I get, but still. I mean, your favorite character in the Mass Effect franchise is basically a cop.
He left.
Yeah, to do it on his own.
Only good cop is a cop that leaves.
Fair enough.
Anyway. Like Jake Peralta.
Yes, but when you fell in love with him, he was a cop.
I just love his steely blue gaze. Anyway. If you like what you heard here, please follow us on social media. We're at Reignite Pod on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email like Erin did at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find us personally, us individual weirdos, on Twitter at Frankie B. Writes and at DJ_Stormageddon. And on Blue Sky, we are Frankie B. Writes and DJ Stormageddon with no underscore. It's very important that you know that, because if you try to look for DJ Stormageddon with the underscore, you will not find them.
You done?
Yes.
Okay, I'm never sure. Please rate and review and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us. Please, please, please rate and review on those platforms. Again, it pushes us to the top when people say search for Magistrate's Orders and don't find some other D&D podcast instead. They have Magistrates in D&D, right?
They have Magistrates and Baldur's Gate.
That's true, too. And the only way we become a Baldur's Gate podcast is if someone pays us to be podcasters full time, because that's a lot of game. But anyway.
I still think we should do Baldur's Gate streaming and not podcasting.
I agree, when we have time. Maybe when you don't live in another country.
I have some bad news for you.
I know. Anyway,
we're members of the Certain Point of View Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with their own unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website. You can join in the conversation there.
Yes, and like Erin mentioned in her email, even though it can be an intimidating space because it's big and there's lots of folks, everyone is welcome. We love chatting. We have new folks joining all the time. You shouldn't be afraid to chime in and have a conversation. We, of course, would love to hear from you. As for personal plugs, I want to shout out that Jeff and I just went to PAX West along with our associate producer, Sarah Moonen. We got to see a lot of cool games and do some cool interviews. And by the time you're hearing this episode, tomorrow, if you're listening to it the day it came out, is our PAX West special for 2024. We're going to have the incredible Jill Grote on as well to chat indie games and talk about what we saw at the convention and all the cool stuff that we got up to. So you should definitely go check that out. The Patreon dollars over at Fun and Games allows us to do cool stuff like that. So if you would like to support indie podcasting, you can go to patreon.com/funandgamespod and support me and Jeff there. There's also a free tier and a preview tier where you can do a free trial of the highest tier and listen to all the podcasts we've put out that are special, and then downgrade your tier so you can hear all the content at once. Honestly, I don't care. Go for it in the trial period. And then I'm still doing the usual stuff. This podcast, Fun and Games. You can find me in all the social places Frankie mentioned, or you can just go to djstormageddon.com and find all of my stuff in one cool place.
And don't forget, if the Patreon gets to 20 paid subscribers, I will yell at the developers of Dungeons of Hinterberg to let me kiss my wife. And at 40 subscribers.
Okay, enough. Off your soapbox.
But it's the only way I can reach the top shelf.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, if you care about what I'm doing, I have some bad news. I'm not doing a whole lot. I am a full-time PhD researcher. It's a miracle I can even do this podcast. But if you would like to contribute to my existence, you can send me a couple of bucks on Venmo at Frankie Brad is hella rad. Papa needs a little treat.
That's true. Papa does.
Papa needs a little treat.
Actually, we'd like to
can I shout something out real quick?
I guess.
Sorry. If getting me a little treat is not your jam, that's totally okay. I mean, disrespectful, but fine. If you would like to put your money to a good cause, I beg you to consider donating even just $1 to Friends of Rescue. They are the rescue organization that I work with while I live here in Northern Ireland. I have 2 foster cats right now. One requires a special diet, and that gets charged directly to the Friends of Rescue bill, and their bill is well over £6,000 right now. They have received a lot of huge donations, but they're still chipping away at that massive bill. If you can spare even $1, that will help us out a lot.
Okay, that was worthwhile to bring up.
Thank you.
So don't give your money to Frankie, give it to a good cause. That's the moral of the story.
Yes.
We'd also like to thank the one and only Case Aiken for developing some cool t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring. And of course, also thank you to Case for designing each episode's individual show art.
We'd like to thank Miracle of Sound for our new theme music.
And of course, last but not least, thank you to Red Spinks for our Dragon Age inspired logo. To see more of his work, you can go to Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
Matt, you know that Red Spinks is not the last. Because lastly, we need to thank you, the listener, for spending time with us. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. And remember, all Templars are bastards.
Fight for your values and fight for your friends. Fight through this blight, find the light at the end. Through the age of the dragon, the people will talk of the day they were saved by a hero named Hawk. Hawk, 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 Hawk.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV.
CertainPOV.com.